services, remodeling, and troubleshooting. Check us out on Angie's List and our website, allphasesec.com, or phone 407-275-6220. Play at All Faces Electrical Contracting reminds you, don't forget, thank Yvette.
Is the clock right?
1300 WMEL.
Looks right to me.
We don't have an hour and 37 minutes.
Oh, well. Fucking
All right.
different clock. I'm looking at the clock on the wall and you're looking at the clock on the TV.
Gotcha. Thank you. Welcome to another exciting edition of American Warrior Radio, the place to be for news, notes, interviews, and current events for all issues military and veteran related. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place. American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL, and online worldwide at 1300WMEL.com. Sponsored, as always, by AVET Project. Folks, this program is all about supporting our troops and their families, both past and present. So please get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee. We tell you always to grab a pen and paper because we're efforting to bring you information that you can use and share with others. With that said, let's roll down the runway and get this show off the ground. You know me, my name is Garen Cohn. I'm an Air Force veteran, a retired legal advocate for veterans, and founder of AVET Project, but you also know, if you're a regular listener, that I never fly through the airwaves alone.
Good morning, I'm Glenn McGuffey, former manager of your Brevard County Veteran Service Office. I retired from there after 22 years of service to our veterans and their families. I'm also retired from the Air Force, so you got a couple blue suiters coming at you down the runway today. I think we'll fly an F-4 to go back to the Vietnam days today.
That'll work, those flying hydraulic leaks that they are.
That they are. We got a great show again for you today. It's a Christmas show, by the way, since Christmas will be coming up before we come at you again down the runway. And we've got some interviews with a very nice person and a somewhat regular on our show. And then we're going to start that off, though, with our good friend in the Coast Guard.
Let's do our bosun's call. Commander B. Perry from Coast Guard Station Port Canaveral. Are you on the line, sir?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all that good stuff.
Hey, Merry Christmas. And I got to say, you guys helped us out to spread a little bit of that Christmas cheer last weekend.
Well, it was AVET Project's pleasure. Honestly, you put on such a nice party for all the Coast Guard families and the little kids. And I just love the guy. We won't disclose maybe unless you want to. Santa was incredible. We just really, everybody loved Santa.
Santa Claus did a great job. He flew all the way in. We went out there, picked him up with a boat, brought him in, and he did a great job. Enjoyed it so much, seeing the twinkle in those kids' eyes. I tell you, it was a great experience, and I tell you, our families were really, really happy, and you saw it on their face. I mean, just to see them light up like that, and we couldn't do it without you guys. The AVET Project, the Space Coast Navy League helped support it, and it was just a great.
Well, I have to say to everybody out there listening, the way you operate your station, it really is a family. I mean, you guys, you just embrace the whole aspect of being a family. Everybody is one, and the day was just incredible. The weather was incredible. We're just really, really thrilled to be a part of that. but there's so much else going on. And Glenn, you had a point you wanted to bring up with him before we get too deep into the bosun's call.
Yeah, I wanted to reference back to the paper, I believe it was yesterday, and I noticed that a Coast Guard reservist was appointed Command Master Chief for all the Coast Guard reserve stations. I think it said east of the Rocky Mountains, and it was about 40 states, and I just wondered if you guys have interface with this gentleman.
Right. Usually what happens is this time of year, it'll be a changeover in the Coast Guard leadership. The Commandant, this is his final year. The Command Master Chief for the enlisted folks to be their final year. So right now they're going through the selection process of deciding who's going to fill those key positions. And they also have the Command Master Chief that you spoke of in the reserve forces. And they do make their rounds. They'll go around to the units. For instance, I'm here to work today, and we have a reserve force on duty this weekend helping out. So, yes, they do come and visit and make their rounds. But like I said, right now it is kind of a selection process that's taking place. We hope by this summer they'll have all the new leadership in place, including we're waiting for, the Director of Homeland Security, or the Secretary of Homeland Security to be chosen, or to be finally, I know they put forth a name. It just has to go through the process.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be very time-consuming if it's a controversial figure, so...
Now, for our listeners that don't know, why do you bring up the issue of Homeland Security? I mean, I know, I'm asking you, explain that.
Homeland Security, we're one of the military services, as everybody knows. We just fall under the Department of Homeland Security, large in part due to our law enforcement capabilities.
Exactly, and you mentioned this is a reserve weekend, a drill weekend, so just as the other branches, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, have their UTAs, their training weekends, so too does the Coast Guard.
Right. We have right now we have enough for 2 weekends a month. Right now we have reserves that come in and drill, and they're out there doing law enforcement and fisheries enforcement and conducting their boat drills. Because usually what happens is, you guys know, that reserve force, for instance, I'll use Katrina or the oil spill.
Sure.
Most of our reservists all got called up and were involved in that. So.
No kidding.
And the reserve force at Station Port Canaveral was a little bit unique in the fact that was one of the largest due to the fact of the space shuttle program. So the reserve forces here at one time ran all the port security for all the space shuttle launches.
That is,
wow.
yeah, that's interesting. So you mentioned that you tasked them directly with missions like that back here in, in the homeland. How do your troops, your active duty troops, learn more from them, or do the reservists kind of get updated and refreshed and learn from your active duty troops, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. I tell you what the reserves bring to the table is the local knowledge and area knowledge experience. Most of them are all police or sheriff's department folks, and they grew up in the area or stayed in the area for a long time. As you know, most of us active duty, we transfer every 3 or 4 years, so that local knowledge experience is worth its weight in gold. So a lot of the pass offs from our reserves to our active duty is just knowing every nook and cranny of those backwaters in the Banana River and Indian River.
Yeah, and it provides that continuity, like you said, as you do change command and personnel.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So what else has been going on?
I tell you, going back to that Christmas, it's you guys at AVET Project don't only just affect us, but earlier this week when you got a hold of me about some presents that were down in the Keys, and you got to understand the Coast Guard's a small service, and one of my brothers in arms that we kind of grew up in the Coast Guard together is the commander down at Coast Guard Station Isla Mirada, and I tell you, I want to say thank you from him. He is thrilled to have the support that you guys provided, and we got people together to help those in the Middle Keys, our military service down there.
Yeah, for sure. That's really what AVET Project wants to do and works hard at doing, and that's bringing the communities together to support our troops. That's what it's all about. I mean, providing whatever services we can to help you guys and gals, because you're out there every single day. And again, the general public, Glenn, doesn't really have an appreciation of how dedicated our troops are and how much is asked of them.
That's right, and that's why we have this part of our show scheduled on a regular basis, and we want to be able to expand our listeners' knowledge about what the Coast Guard does, who the Coast Guard is, and all those kinds of great things, and remind people, as the commander said earlier, that they are part of the military forces, even though they work for Homeland Security. I wanted to ask you, Commander, since a lot of people are off this time of year, is that make you particularly busy because of recreational boating?
Yes, sir. That's the funny part about our job here is it seems like when there's a holiday, that's whenever we really have to go to work, because with weather like we've got right now, oh my gosh, there's people that want to get out and enjoy it. And yeah, as you know, in Florida, that's usually entails going out on a boat. So yes, sir, we do stay a little bit busier, and especially whenever the weather is this nice.
Well, what would you remind people of while they're boating during this holiday season? What would be important for them to know?
A couple of things I would suggest is, first off, make sure you always wear a life jacket. They make life jackets now that are not cumbersome at all. They actually are really comfortable, and they will save your life. The second thing is, if you go out on your boat, let somebody that's staying by, staying at home, a friend, family member or something, let them know where you're going and when you intend on getting back.
Kind of like a flight plan. I mean, if you're a pilot, you file a...
Flight plan, we call it a float plan. You tell them where you're going, where you plan to be, and when you plan to be back. And that helps us put together that puzzle in case you don't show up on time and we get the phone call, so we can backtrack through your plan, and it helps us to help you.
Excellent advice.
Yeah.
That would be the two main things. And then, you know, if you do have a radio would be great. Coast Guard monitors channel 16 all the time, 24/7, all the way around the coast. So we're there if you need us. But wearing that life jacket makes our job a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. And I just, before we end this particular segment of the Bosun's Call, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of our hearts at AVET Project. And again, we're all volunteers, folks, but at the recent holiday party, you presented AVET Project with an awesome photograph of your entire crew at your station, as well as this magnificent plaque, which I've got here, and this wonderful letter, just thanking us for helping you, and it really is our pleasure. And I just had to mention that, sir, because it really meant a lot to us. And as a matter of fact, one of the volunteers was brought to tears. So thank you so much for recognizing what we do. But it ain't about us, it's about us helping you, and it is our distinct pleasure, sir.
Hey, it means a lot, because I'm glad you guys do what you do, and we, like I said, we could not do it without you, and that was just a small token of our appreciation. We love your volunteers. It was great to see them out here the other day, and it was funny, I was laughing whenever I heard your intro into the story talking about worldwide. Well, as you know, my mom was visiting from Missouri, and she keeps track of us on radio.
That's right.
Over the internet by watching American Warrior Radio on the internet.
Exactly, and that was great to meet her and talk about that. She says, I said, so you even listen when we don't have a Bosun's Call? And she says, sure do.
Great.
She's up there in Missouri, and my nephews and stuff keep track of it. So thank you for getting the word out and doing what you guys do and educating people on the Coast Guard. It means a lot to us, and I hope you all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you,
Merry Christmas
Commander.
to you.
Really appreciate it. And tell all your troops we send our love and our best wishes.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You bet. Folks, that is your commander of Coast Guard Station Port Canaveral, Commander B. Perry, who will, as always, join us again for another Bosun's Call down the road here. But Glenn, we wanted to talk about a story that just came up. It's the Dateline's December 16th. What is going on? There's some big changes happening.
Well, right now the VA will service connect traumatic brain injury, and they look at about 10 different variables there, that problems that can be that are caused by traumatic brain injury, and they make a rating on each of those 10, and whichever one is the worst determines what the rating is for TBI. So if they said
TBI again.
traumatic brain injury,
And how's that happen?
yeah, that normally happens through IEDs, improvised explosive devices. It can happen other ways, but that's the most common one for our combat veterans right now.
The concussive blast field of these
Exactly.
super energized explosions.
Yes, the concussion that does the damage. Normally, it's not shrapnel or that kind of stuff from the explosion. It's a concussion, and you can be quite a distance away from where the explosion goes off. You could be 2 or 3 vehicles behind the one that unfortunately hits the IED.
We've heard everything from 60 to 100 meters, even further away, depending on the size of the blast.
Yeah, and it causes massive other problems because you rattle that teeny little brain, well, not teeny maybe, but your delicate little brain around in that hard shell
Some people
skull.
have teeny brains, but hey, all our troops are big brain.
That's right. And
So this TBI,
so now they're going to recognize that you can file, in addition to whatever rating you get for traumatic brain injury, you can get rated separately for 5 additional ones that before were incorporated in the rating for traumatic brain injury. Now they would result in additional VA compensation if it's found you have them and they're related back to your traumatic brain injury, what caused that, the experience that caused that. So tell them some of those.
well, obviously they're recognizing Parkinson's disease, which we all think of as an older folks problem, disorder. Dementia, again, it's kind of associated with folks that are aging.
Previously rolled up in the TBI rating.
Exactly. Depression, that sounds like a no-brainer.
Yep.
Bad pun there. Seizures.
Yep. Unprovoked seizures, as a matter of fact.
Right, unprovoked seizures, so it's just sudden onset seizure activity.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to some people that have seizure problems, see spinning lights or things like that. It can cause to set off a seizure for them.
Right, and diseases of the hypothalamus and pituitary glands, and those are those parts of our brains that are like regulators or monitors of the rest of our endocrine system and our body systems in general.
Yeah, that pituitary gland is very important.
And they don't reach these decisions or promulgate these new rules, meaning this is dated December 16th. They won't take effect for 30 days, but there's a very lengthy and involved process that the VA goes through in order to establish eligibility for service connection through the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine. They study the long-term consequences of these and compare them and then reach a rule. So what that tells me is they've been investigating this because the war's been going on over 10 years when we include Iraq and Afghanistan, that they've been studying these after effects of traumatic brain injury for a long time, and these are undeniable manifestations of, residuals to TBI.
Yeah, and as with any disability claim, you need to get some proper medical evidence that says these 5 things, or one of these 5 things, whatever you may be afflicted with, is related back to your traumatic brain injury. The traumatic brain injury, actually the event that caused your traumatic brain injury, is a causative factor in why you have Parkinson's, dementia, depression, seizures, or those diseases of the, not diseases, but problems of the brain.
Okay, so as the retired supervisor of the Brevard County Veteran Service Office and credentialed veterans advocate, what's their best plan of action to attack this? Let's say they know that they've been diagnosed with residuals to TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
And a doctor tells them, well, you're developing depression or you're having these seizures. What do they do?
Well, talk with the doctor and tell them you need a written statement from the doctor connecting the depression back to the TBI and the event that caused that, an improvised explosive device or whatever. There's other things. You can be a parachute jumper and land hard.
Exactly.
So forth and so on. A lot of things
You
related
could fall
to
off a half track. I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah,
because
you
of
bang
TBI.
your head inside a naval vessel, they have
The
tight
bulkhead
cord
or what have you.
Yeah, exactly. So then go see a credentialed service officer.
Wait a minute, hold on now. If I go to the doctor and I'm just a young troop, maybe 22, 24 years old, just getting out of service, and I've been diagnosed with a TBI. Maybe I was over there and experienced a blast, an IED blast, so I know I'm a little scrambled, and the doctors have kind of told me that. Maybe I'm a little intimidated to go into a doctor and say, hey, I need you to help me with my claim for TBI. There is a VHA, Veterans Health Administration directive, that permits doctors to write these nexus statements.
Permits but does not direct, so that's
Correct.
a very key point there.
But do they need to unequivocally state, hey, I've looked at this man's service jacket and it shows he was involved in this blast, and he's got it today?
It's an excellent point that you can bring the evidence to the credentialed service officer to help you file the claim, and the evidence showing that you have that problem, and the VA has recognized these 5 problems, so then submit the claim, and the VA is going to call you in for what they call a compensation and pension exam, which should establish to the VA satisfaction that this is related to your TBI, and they will approve an additional service-connected disability for you. So that's a good point, Garen.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that the level of proof is very low. The doctor only needs to note that it's at least as likely as not.
Yeah, which is 50-50 in
the real world.
American judicial system requires at least 51-49, so it's the lowest level of proof that you need.
Exactly. So don't be intimidated. If you know a troop that's facing these issues, they need to probably, even before they seek the doctor's write-up, need to talk to somebody that knows what's going on, a credentialed service officer.
That's right. And, you know, these are brand new and they're not going to be in effect for 30 days. But you can file the claim now, because by the time the VA gets it out of the mail room, 30 days will have gone by anyway.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Well, folks, we're coming to the bottom of the hour. We've got an exciting amount of American Warrior Radio left on the platter, so don't go anywhere. I wanted to get a quick shout out to all you fine folks out there that are looking for something to do on December 26th between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Okay, Walk on Water Ministries. Check them out. Just Google it. Walk on Water Ministries has free horseback riding for veterans, active duty, and their families. Just Google it. Walk on Water Ministries. Google it. December 26th, 4 to 6. I also want to get a special thank you again to Papa Vito's restaurant in Cape Canaveral for their wonderful and generous support of AVET Project and helping us deliver the goods and the toys to all the kids this year. Folks, don't go anywhere, because American Warrior Radio is going to be right back with more exciting news about military and veterans issues. We'll be right back.
Stay there.